Another aspect of our meetings has been the various, as you put it on several occasions, the brushes with greatness.
Oh.
Lauterbur, for example. You have any recollections or reminiscences about that and others?
Well, you know,
Britton Chance, for example.
Britton Chance, yeah, I understand that Britton Chance was interviewed, actually himself, a guy with a 60-year-plus history. I have a book by him in my basement, which dates to the Second World War, right? And his career has...
He's an amazing person.
Went on for another 60
he's still,
years or so.
And even to this day,
Yeah.
he came to AIPR in October.
Is that right?
And gave a brilliant talk about blood imaging through the brain, through the skull. Yeah, and it was fascinating.
Incredible guy, and I think he's a rower or a shell? Isn't he?
Oh, he's a bicyclist, I know. Is he a rower?
He's a really athletic guy, yeah. In fact, he may have been in an Olympics 60 or 70 years ago or something like that.
I know that.
You never know who you're talking to, Murray. But yes, I always like to say that in medical imaging, I mean, there are two grand phenomena. One was the arrival of CT, and the other one was the arrival of MRI. And CT made it possible not to have to do torture chamber imaging. I mean, those of us who have seen The Exorcist remember that this child that was supposedly possessed, they started to take images of the child and the child's brain, and they did what was called pneumoencephalography. They would put air in your spinal column and then turn you upside down so that some of the air would go to your wherever they wanted it to go and put you in this like horror chamber and spin you around. And if you saw The Exorcist, you saw this happening. But when CT came along, that was the end of it. And somebody told me at one of these meetings that they had just bought a new encephalography suite or something.
Oh, really?
When CT
came along.
And it was never used. But anyway, CT was a big deal, and MRI was a big deal, and CT was such a big deal that its inventors, Allan Cormack, mathematician at Tufts, and Godfrey Hansfeld, an engineer at EMI, again, the Beatles electronics company, not their electronics company.
Just died a year ago,
yes,
2 years ago.
Yeah. Well, these two guys got the Nobel Prize in medicine or physiology, which always goes to a medical doctor. And here's a mathematician and an engineer getting the Nobel Prize. And then Paul Lauterbur and Peter Mansfield, just recently, a few years ago, got the Nobel Prize for their work in MRI, magnetic resonance imaging. And we had Paul Lauterbur here, and I think he was here before he got the Nobel Prize. Do you remember that?
I think it was...
Maybe it was after, I'm not sure. He may have been tough to get afterwards.
No, I think you're right. It was before. It was before. But not by much. I mean, it was very close.
Yeah.
I think you are right. Because I have seen him he gave a talk at the Naval Research Lab not so long ago after his Nobel Prize.
Yeah. But I always say that, well, we have a joke, Harry Barrett, we say if there's a famous person and if you publish with them, let's say the guy's name was Murray Loew, and I published with Murray Loew, my Loew number is 1, minus 1. Well, Allan Cormack got the Nobel Prize, and when he was putting together his Nobel address, I think maybe Ken had talked about this as well, but he got in contact with Ken Hansen and asked Ken for Ken's proton CT images. And Ken was hired by Los Alamos Laboratory to put together and design and do the algorithms and the whole process to do proton CT. And I had the opportunity to have been at a meeting with Ken in Toronto, a Rodney Shaw meeting, a Shaw and Chris Dainty meeting in 1976. And I made some comment, and then Ken at the meeting, and Ken realized that we might be kindred spirits. And so we drove together then from that meeting to a meeting in Ottawa, became close friends, and then he became associated with this meeting, perhaps in connection with that. But in any case, he completed that task of developing a proton CT project in a few years, and Allan Cormack got in contact with him and said, I'd like your proton CT images, and there's several of them in his Nobel address, and that's reprinted in Medical Physics, actually. And so I published with Ken Hansen, I published with you, and so my Nobel number is -2 or something like that. And we're all on that same team, right?
That's a very good reference.
Yeah.